Hello, friends. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I welcome you once again as we journey through the book of Ephesians. And to be more specific, we are at lesson 11 today, whose title is Practicing Supreme Loyalty to Christ. My name is Moses Kipchirchir, and we'll get through directly to the lesson. And this week's memory text is from the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 9, which says that, "And masters, treat your slaves in the same way, do not threaten them, since you know that he who is both their master and yours is in heaven, and there is no favoritism in him." The lesson also continues to introduce and it gives a history and a story about one of the Bible artifacts which was found in one of the museums in the US. And we told that this particular Bible artifact was found out that after it had been perused through that most of the Bible passages or the chapters had been compromised. Out of the 1189 chapters, 232 passages had not been compromised. And the reason for twisting and turning these particular verses, it was to advance the cause of slavery. It was more selfish and more intentional to advance the cause of slavery, which happened at that particular time. These are the things in which Paul speaks about very intentionally as he writes this particular book of Ephesians to the people in Ephesus. And so just to create this particular distinction, or to warn these particular people in Ephesus, and which also this warning is relevant to us today, Paul begins by talking to the children, and he quotes a Bible verse from the book of Exodus chapter 20 verse 12, which says, "Children, honor your father and mother, that thou may live long upon the land in which the Lord thy God giveth thee." And so Paul begins by speaking to the children and says, honor your father and mother in the Lord. Also, Paul goes hand in hand to talk to the parents in this particular whole message, to create a distinction between the world and God's children, so to speak. He also tells them that as you correct the young children, correct them in a godly way. And there is something more interesting I want to read from the lesson, which is quoted from the book Child Guidance, which says that, "Fathers and mothers in the home, you are to represent God's disposition. You are to require obedience, not with a storm of words, but in a kind, loving manner. Be pleasant in the home, restrain every word that will arouse unholy temper. Fathers, provoke not your children to wrath," is a divine injunction. It continues to say, "No license is given in God's word for parental severity or oppression or for filial disobedience. The law of God in the home life and in the government of nations flows from a heart of infinite love." The law of God in the family and even in the nations and in the government flows from a heart of infinite love. It flows from love and love alone. And so Paul tries to speak to these different categories of people to enhance their change from their continuous way of life. And so as the lesson tries to build up on bringing supreme loyalty to Christ, let us understand that the lesson writer is very intentional to speak about supreme loyalty. And again, as we get through, he speaks to the servants. And Paul says that if you are called to be a servant, that is from the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 7 verse 20, then be a bond servant and work for Christ. In whatever call you are called into, be a bond servant of Christ. Be a master of Christ. Not doing your own activities or your own work independently, but work as if you're working for Christ. And Paul says that in as much as we have masters and slaves, that is earthly masters and slaves, we are all equal before God. We are all co-slaves before God, in that we are under one umbrella before God, in that as a master, remember, you are also a slave before God. And this will try to enhance a particular form of Christ-like character in whatever things we're doing as Christians, in that we're working for God and God alone. Whatever things we are doing for God and God alone. Thank you so much, and have a blessed time.